Hello and welcome to another video. This is my second tactical video in 2 weeks, as essentially I wanted to take a look at United's performance against Fulham, which had pretty much all of us very frustrated at the end of it, not getting the win, having the draw. Massive amount of narratives going on about the situation in general, about why, about what, about so many different things that have essentially tied into all of this. And I wanted to take an honest look at it because I was incredibly frustrated by this game as well. So I went through the painful process of actually rewatching it, stopping frame by frame, looking through this from basically 6, 7 in the morning this morning to clip this all up and put it together. Now I've got about 50 images in place to try to show things. I wanted to look at even when United were doing well, what were they missing? Because there's a few major complaints that I think everybody has. Number one, the lack of sustained attacking pressure, pattern chance creation and attacks and things like that. Too sporadic, too far and few and far between. That's one of the issues I wanted to look for. Two, the quotes from Iwobi and such after the game. Was it really that simple? Were Fulham really that successful? Spoiler alert, they were not. They did absolutely very little in terms of what they said was their tactic to be successful until their goal. What did Ruben Amorim get wrong in this game? Because he made a few very, I think, big errors that mostly come down to personnel choice and substitutions and things like that. And what's actually going on here? Are we seeing a change in the way that United are playing? And that's what I want to show. So let's get into it. It's very different than I think the narrative that is out there, which some people are going to be happy with, some people are going to be unhappy with because they want it to confirm, their feelings. There's good reasons to be angry, good reasons to be upset by the performance, but I don't think it is necessarily even close to the way that is being put out there about it. So let's drop into the first kind of frame here. This is 3.5 minutes into the game. I wanted to cover this while United were actually playing well again, so that you could see the good and the bad of things. Okay, this is a moment. Obviously, we see the 10s kind of dropping in to the middle, assisting the midfield. Again, this idea that the midfield was being overloaded constantly by Fulham, wrong. In and out of possession, that was wrong. They had plenty of numbers at many points in time. When you're playing in that 2 versus 3, of course, a 2 versus 3 is going to be overloaded. The answer is, of course, always that center backs need to step up, 10s need to step in, depending on the phases, so that it makes, and wing backs need to be in line with the midfield at times, so that it makes a 4 or even a 5 at times, and you actually have numerical superiority. Now, I want to highlight here something, because Fulham did this all game, and you will see through the repeated explanations and images here exactly how they set up and exactly why United didn't take advantage of it. And it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's actually quite unbelievable how frustrating it is, because it would be so simple. And it comes down to a lot of really bad mistakes and dumb decisions in and on the pitch. In this instance, Cunha drops all the way in to assist, and you got to keep an eye on Mason Mount coming all the way over. What happens here is Lenny Yoro plays the ball in here. Mason Mount drops into this space. He's really good at finding gaps. I can see when in watching this, I was blown away by how good he was in finding spaces to run into. It's obvious why he keeps getting picked. He's so good at finding these kind of gaps. Cunha is as well. So the ball ends up coming in here. I think it goes to Cunha, bounces to Casemiro, who finds Mason Mount in this position, who passes it back to Bruno. Now I want to show you just how scandalously bad this mistake is, because this is how Fulham made decisions the entire game. This is how they defended. You need to count their players. This is the entire point of Ruben Amorim's system. Mason Mount drags the defender in over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. All right. So if you can do math with me, that leaves one guy, one defender on this entire half of the pitch. One defender. Now off screen is Patrick Dorgu down here, and here's Luke Shaw making a run forward. Here is 9 defenders on that half. Here's Bruno Fernandes with the ball. What do you think he does in this example? Because the entire purpose of this whole build-up is build up through, drag the players to the one side by overloading via the midfield, and then getting it out into the wide areas for numerical advantages. This makes for an incredibly easy attack. There's no pressure on the ball. There is no pressure. You can pass it right into Luke Shaw or into Patrick Dorgu and make an immediate 2 versus 1, which of course forces the defender to back all the way up, and you're getting in his box. Cunha is making a darting run in behind here, which he actually does quite well. And you have an easy attack on your hands to go forward to sustain pressure and to keep the ball moving. You've beaten them. Instead, the ball goes back to Lenioro. You pass the ball from a position of extreme numerical superiority back to Yoro for what? Let's look at image 1 and let's drag it all the way back to 1. You've created an advantage and you've just given it up and reset the entire game for no reason. No reason. Absolutely no reason. Massive mistake. Easy attack. Perfect run of play by Cunha. See, he stops his run here. Mount. Everybody involved. Mbeumo. You have everybody ready to attack that back line and get numbers in the box when Shaw and Dorgu are coming down on there. Instead, you pass it to Lenioro for nothing. To just waste time. I don't know. Then you look here. Bruno was getting this so wrong all game. It was almost insane. This is something you'll note. I showed an image of this, a video of this. We tweeted it yesterday at 41 minutes where Bruno's standing there trying to be this conductor. You're not the quarterback. Stop. Let people do their jobs. You can see this again in this instance. A brilliant run from Mason Mount. Drags the defender forward. You can see this defender already on their back heels. Why? Because Patrick Dorgu is making a crazy run in behind, and Mbeumo is ready to find him too. De Ligt sees it, and instead of listening to Bruno yelling and moaning at him to do the wrong thing and somehow recycle the ball to Lenioro, he sends it over the top. Perfect. This pass is about 1 yard too far, or it's a goal. You've got two players clear in space beyond the back line, onside, by the way, for 100% onside in this case. They don't get to it, they lose it, but the idea was perfect. And yes, I'm going in on Bruno Fernandes on this video because it was one of the worst displays I've ever seen, and it's not just about performance, but about the decisions, about everything. And all of these ideas about the system can't do this, the system can't do that, I'm going to show you practically, we've already seen 2 in 3.5 minutes, not including the chances they did create off the post, Cunha in one-on-one a little later. You've already seen 2 instances of very good chances that should have been created. Additional chances via the basic system runs, all right? And you're going to see more and more and more and more and more. Here's another image kind of showing. He sees this from Dorgu. Mount is dragging Castagna out of position. Dorgu makes a brilliant run. It's a good pass from De Ligt. It's exactly what you want. The only person who didn't seem to get this and was crying about it during the game was Bruno Fernandes. I don't understand that. It's unbecoming of a captain. Then there's a position out of possession here because it's not just Bruno, where I'm trying to explain, does this midfield overload thing kind of happen here? You've got the center backs kind of tight to the forwards. They're doing that thing where they drop in a bit. You've got 3 over here. You've got the midfield 3 kind of bouncing around trying to cause this problem. Now, this player, I think it's Lukic, or in this case, who comes across. Casemiro, there's a lot of this in his game that does not work, and it's one of the reasons why Casemiro does not work in this midfield. He doesn't have the legs. Far too often, Casemiro is sitting. There's nobody here, not following a player. The player runs over and creates a numerical overload. You can see here, Dorgu has someone down here. Shaw's kind of here. Bruno's on this guy. Bruno can step up and Shaw can step up there, which is what happens in the next frame. Because he's not followed, now this player advances. Now Casemiro steps up. Now Bruno has to run into here to keep up with play. Now Shaw has to keep up with this and try and shut it down. They do so, though. That's the point. This whole thing of making these numerical overloads where the center backs are jumping. In this case, Bruno does it quick enough. Shaw does it quick enough. They press really well. They make a decent trap, and they shut that attack down. Again, this whole thing Fulham were trying to do was not actually successful. They failed at it for about 70 minutes. So it's not like this major tactical craziness. Here again, I just want to highlight, for whatever reason, Bruno rushes completely out of position, leaves a gaping hole in the midfield to do this kind of frenetic press. I did not see a reason for it. The whole sequence kind of played out with just running around, expending energy basically for nothing, so I don't know why. I want to highlight this moment again as well. Once again, this idea that Fulham created these numerical overloads and advantages, not true, not at all. In fact, United have 5 against 4 here, but I want you to watch this position in this case. Shaw steps up, gets the offside trap in this image. Let's watch the next one. I don't know where Bruno's going. This will show up later, because this is, of course, where we concede at the end of the day. I've seen a lot of complaints about this. This is why I highlighted this moment about how many players are dropping deep. There's no reason for Bruno Fernandes to be this deep. He should be up touch tight with the player, should be forming, in this instance, a fine 5-2. Yes, defending in a line of 5 is not that unusual. It shouldn't be a 7 or a 6 so easily. The midfield needs to be stepping out. There's no reason with this number of players, and there's one down here, that this needs to be 6 players in there. But that's a common theme of the whole game as well that unfortunately was there. Then the cross comes in from this circumstance, I think, and United defend it pretty well. Again, they have enough players in this situation to cover it. Oh, that's what this one was. This is the moment that, whoever the player is for them, I can't remember his name, but it's this guy. This is the moment he gets in and was pretty much their only open play chance of the game. This isn't a tactical flaw. 1, 2, 3, 4 players, 1 runner. They just lost him. There's nothing else in it. They just lost him. This is just basic defending. They didn't block the passing lane, and they didn't block the run. There's no tactical reason for this. There's no giant system glaring issue that created this chance. It is purely down to poor defending in that instance. This happened a few times. We'll talk about it a little later, but there's nothing really majorly to think about from that. It's just a mistake. It's not this glaring system problem. Now, I want to show this image as well. This one bothers me. United building up from the back, and you'll see this a lot. Cunha drops all the way back and comes across into a strong right foot, and he's shaping right here to hit the ball out into Ahmad, because once again, you go back to that earlier image, we get these 2v1 situations out wide constantly with the wingback and one of the 10s, or a wingback and a center back darting forward, because we were overloading Fulham in the build-up and creating where they had so many players. They have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I think 8 and 9 down here. You again have a 2v1 situation at the back in this. Now, Cunha comes in to make that pass, and what happens? Casemiro takes the ball off of him. Cunha goes like this, and where does Casemiro go? Backwards. Another numerical advantage created by clever system buildup by the 20th minute. This is the 3rd time this has happened. That should have resulted in a direct attack down in the channels that Cunha is shaping for, ready to get that ball out wide to him. Shut down, well defended by Casemiro and Bruno. I have no idea what they're doing to go backwards and make a negative play out of a numerical advantage that was created via the build-up. Let me think, what is this image here? Here's another instance, in this case, 23 minutes, a second later. Again, Cunha drops very, very deep in, sends the ball over to Casemiro in this case, and what happens here? Once again, here you go. He drops into the 10, manipulates the defense here. Let's find the right spot for this image. Mason Mount, acres and acres of space. What do we do? What do you think the right call is here? Because this is exactly what a 10 is supposed to do in this instance, and Mbeumo has shifted to the number 9. We've once again manipulated them to where we actually have some good room to run. The ball goes backwards. Ball goes backwards. Ball goes out like this. I don't know. Again, that's 23 minutes. This happens so many times, I stopped taking clips of it. Now, I'm going to highlight this again. This is something where the defensive organization is bad. This is on probably the coach, but there's a few things wrong with this. Number one, this is out here. This is out here. That's fine. They're kind of sending a runner through, okay? You don't need the line to be shifted so much to this side. In this case, it's really Lenny should be here. Casemiro should be somewhere over here. He doesn't really need to be marking. They don't need to be double marking in this case. This is okay. It's fine to have more defenders around the attacker. This is where we get problematic. Bruno should be here. He just should. Look at Patrick Dorgu. 1, 2, 3. And he's one guy. And Bruno loses Lukic again, which is a story of the entire game. Lukic is behind him. You can see exactly what's going to happen here. Cross comes in. And what happens? Patrick Dorgu is trying to clear it against 1, 2, 3 players. Bruno hasn't moved. No effort, no defending in there. We're very lucky on that instance that the cross wasn't any good. And that Patrick Dorgu took kind of a... But you can see he was under pressure and he hit a bad clearance out of this. You can see why that happened. 1 against 3, he feels all those players on his back. Now, here's again Lukic. Standing here. Mason Mount's going to over here. Dorgu's closing this down. Bruno looks at him. And what happens? Nothing. He starts jogging over this way. For some reason, instead of closing down the pass. There's no reason for it. Then, of course, maybe this isn't Lukic in his space. It's number 21. I don't have the names of all of them right. He receives it. Now Bruno tries to step up and guard him. And now there's a darting run in from a Fulham player. He gets all the way into here before it's defended in that instance. Another dangerous attack in the same sequence of play happens simply because, for some reason, not closing this player down, but just sort of jogging around, marking nobody. These are the kind of things that are just, to me, extremely unacceptable. So that was the first half. I've got more, and I'm going to go through the entire second team here because it is crazy, the second half, and show a lot more instances of all of this. And you can find dozens of them. And the point is that there's reasons that these things are happening that I think are far too often pinned into, a specific reason, something that is viewed as tactical or is viewed as this or that, when the reality of the situation is it's not. It has very little to do with it, very little to almost nothing to do with it. And it's purely often down to the decisions that are being made by the players on the pitch, the way that they're approaching the game, the way that they're attacking, and what they are doing. So, and in general, I would say as well, kind of your kind of personnel decisions certainly feed into this too. So let's take a look at the next kind of sequence in this. And let me just blow this up a little bit bigger because for some reason the zoom on this is a little different now that I've switched tabs. This is in the second half. We come out of the second half actually significantly better. Now, this is one of the few times in the entire game that Bruno finds a number 10 in Mbeumo here, dropping deep and makes kind of the brave pass to him under pressure. Mbeumo knocks it back to Bruno in this case. And again, instead of making the negative play, you can see once again Mason Mount dropping into these pockets. He's always available. Bruno fires the ball out to him, who is able to send Dorgu through into the attack. And United get, it was either a corner or they made a decent attack out of that one. Now, again, I want to show here, once again, this is where Bruno was doing actually quite well for about the first 5 minutes of the second half. You have right here this circumstance where, again, they're talking about this overload that they're supposedly making by having the center back jump. There's none. Bruno slides over to cover Casemiro, marks it well. They stop the play. They tackle the player. There's nothing. They were not creating some crazy tactical overload at all. Here, I want to indicate this moment, which I thought was really bad. Again, Luke Shaw jumps all the way out to make a tackle here. The ball is loose. This is just purely down to effort, desire, and intensity. The ball is loose. Bruno doesn't react at all. they pick it up and continue their attack. Once again, no numerical advantages being created by supposedly this tactical genius going on in the game. There was nothing. I could not find a single moment of it in this game where they were easily jumping by the buildup in cause of this. But you're seeing a hell of a lot of personnel and individual errors that tie into just things that should absolutely not be happening through the game. Once again here, I want to point this out. This is where people don't like, and I hate it as well. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why? This is where you can see Casemiro's legs are tiring. He has no need to be that deep. Bruno, no need to be that deep. Should be stepping up on these players. There's enough defenders. There's enough other players around. So easily and quickly moving into a line of 7 makes no sense. Mbeumo should be able to press. They should be able to squeeze them. They have the numerical advantage here. Even though Fulham have done well to get 5 players in the back line, it doesn't need to be 7. You need to be able to close the attack down and shut these players down as well. Way too quick to drop into the 7 from a lot of the players. Now here again is a key moment. This is where we made the sub for Šeško to come on. We took Casemiro off. We immediately saw the benefit of Šeško. Luke Shaw plays a long ball into Šeško. He wins it, takes it down, drags the defender out of position, releases the ball. Here we go again. I lost it, man. I lost it watching this. I was so angry. Ball goes out, comes through here from Mason Mount, kind of has it, and is all shaped to go down to this side because, guess again, wing back forward, 1 against 2 against 1. You can see 8 players on screen. There's another one over there. Or there's one in here. I don't know. Either way, again, Fulham all caught in their own half. On their own half. I say on that side of the ball. We've manipulated it well. Mount's dropped in. Šeško's dropped in to win it. The runs are there. The player is there. Everything is shaping up to send it out wide. Once again, Bruno gets it in this position. Look. 1. Oh my God. 2. There's a simple pass to make here that sends United through. Where does Bruno pass it? Right here. Into Cunha. And we lose it. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pass it into the 2v6 situation instead of into the 2v1 on the other side. And United lose the ball. It's nonsensical. Mason Mount was shaped to send it out wide. It's, again, the 5th time this happens in the game. United have all the space to run and all the space to attack with a numerical advantage, and it is thrown away. So, yeah, frustrating. I'm almost done, I promise. Got like 2 more lines to go through. Here's another instance just showing, again, they did not get in behind by creating some crazy situation where the center back jumps. In this case, they're tight. De Ligt loses the header a little bit there. Then it gets flicked over Euro. It's just defending. Euro makes the recovery in this case and stops it. Again, no crazy numerical advantage, no tactical advantage being gained here. Straight long ball that they just won. That was it. Just winning a header. Here, another instance. I want you to look all the way at the bottom. You can see Diogo Dalot. We've got Cunha dropped into here. This is where we've actually scored our goal. Cunha, again, dropping out. Mbeumo in the middle. Dalot all the way down here. Šeško making his way back up, I think, after coming deep for picking up the ball. I'll just show you because it's very blurry, and I'll show you what happens here. Dorgu gets it over here. No, this is Šeško's here. Cunha's right here. Cunha comes kind of around to pick the ball up, and then watch. He does the thing that Bruno failed to do, the thing he failed to do 4 times, and the thing that Casemiro took the ball off of him. Cunha gets it, sends it out wide. Look at here. Look at what we have. There's the 2v1. That's been there all game. That's been actively avoided by the midfield in this game. Dalot gets into the attack. For some reason, cuts it back in. But we get a corner out of it, and United score a goal on that ensuing corner. So, again, chance created results in the goal on the basis of that Cunha doing what was being failed to be done all game. Now, here's where Ruben Amorim makes a mistake. After the goal, you can start to see the problem. You can see Cunha lagging out of behind in the possession, in the pressing. Dorgu getting caught up the field a little bit. Mason Mount trying to close these gaps down. This is when you had Mount and Bruno in the midfield. Not ideal. You can see they're tiring. This is where this strategy works. Luke Shaw jumps, doesn't make the tackle. Mason Mount stops and ends up behind him. So this is the strategy that was supposedly working. First time it actually did anything was at 60 minutes. And the reason it did it is because the player's tired and they couldn't keep up. Genuinely no other reason than that. That's the answer. That's what happened there. They get an attack out of it, but United shut it down. Now, here again, I just want to show this instance. It is infuriating. I nearly smashed my desk to pieces watching this. I can't believe it. United win the ball back in this position, attacking to the right. Look at Dorgu. Wide open in space. Striker, forward, all of this space. Where do you think the ball went? It went here. Why? Why? Again, Bruno, for the fifth, sixth time maybe this game, has a clear run at sending his wing back into space through against a run of play with his marker behind him, sends it backwards. Baffling. Absolutely baffling. The number of attacks that have been wasted. Then here's where things go wrong, and United end up conceding. Fulham make two changes, which were very clever. One of them being Smith Rowe. I showed you in the last image, you could see even 10 minutes ago that midfield was starting to tire, starting to lose the gaps. He puts Ugarte on, which is fine actually in this instance, but the center backs are covering too. And this is where the strategy did work. Okay, this is where Fulham's strategy did work and they created something, but the reason isn't what people think. It's just a mistake. So you can see the ball, they've kind of made this build-up play. Now, you can see Lenny getting up and De Ligt getting up. There's only one thing that really goes wrong here, and it's tiredness. De Ligt has no reason to be this aggressive at this point in time. You can see Lenny sitting off of his man, staying behind him. De Ligt massively, see how Lenny stays back to be his coverage, doesn't commit strongly to the press because he knows he's tired. This is where you just have to know the game state. You have to know the game situation. You have to know where you're at. De Ligt jumps the run way too hard, presses up way too high, even after losing the duel, and the ball ends up going in behind him. This is essentially De Ligt's man here. Then, no problem. They get in. Either way, we take advantage of it. Ball goes into Diogo Dalot, does some awful, awful turn in this position, and loses the ball in here. For no reason at all. Ball goes out wide, and here you go. You're tired, unfocused, having an absolute awful game. Bruno watching, in this case, Smith Rowe sitting in this position. You can see Dalot is here, and Mbumo's behind the play, which is, of course, forcing Ugarte to come over and come to this one, which is fine in this instance that Mbumo is behind. He's not supposed to be right there. Ball goes in. Once again, nobody else to blame here. Shaw has to watch this guy. Dorgu has to watch this guy. De Ligt has to watch this guy. Ball goes in early. And Bruno rooted to the spot, like he was on every single passage of play that came through the final third. Smith Rowe goes in, scores the goal, and Bob's your uncle. This was a catastrophe of a game from a few things. But when you really sum it up, there was no insane systematic advantage. Why can't United generate attacks consistently? For the most part, there's 7, 8, a lot more instances than I clipped up there of that exact thing occurring, where refusal to pass the ball out, just an awful decision, passing it back into the danger instead of into the overload out wide. Amorim's entire system is about sending it out wide to create the overloads. Remember, manipulate the defense, send it wide into the channel. That's his whole system, completely nullified by passing it away from the channels and back into danger 7, 8, 9, 10 times, even in just the first half. And I showed you, I think 5 or 6 of them happened so many times. They could have had many, many, many more attacks and sustained pressure if it had simply been done right. Second thing, this whole thing of the 3v2, United dealt with it really well until the center backs tired, and then they lost it. Essentially, in two instances, Shaw jumped too hard. In one instance, Mount couldn't keep up because he was tired, and De Ligt overjumped it, and he couldn't keep up with the play. Ruben Amorim made reactive substitutions in this game, and that's what he did wrong. He should have seen that the players were tired before that point in time. You could see that Mount was fading, he subbed him too late. You could see that De Ligt was fading, he subbed him too late. That's why he subbed the center backs, because he could see them tired and making those mistakes, but it was too late. It should have been done earlier, frankly. Very reactive with the subs, and the biggest thing he should have done in there is to sub Bruno Fernandes off. At about 60 at halftime, Bruno should have been off because he was completely unfocused and he was having an absolutely horrific game. But in addition to that, what I have to add to the situation is that he should have at minimum subbed off Bruno and one of Cunha and Mbeumo because they were really tiring towards the end of that game for Xerxes and Kobbie Mainoo. 100% should have subbed them off, made big mistakes. He could have made a lot of those changes at different points in time to sort things out. The team selection is bad. This midfield will not work. They are just too slow, not paying attention to it. All you need from this is a very, very average performance from the midfield. None of the things I pointed out in here were asking the midfield to do anything special. Simply send the ball out wide to the wing back, to the fullback, to the center back as they were going through in those spaces and do the basics. Cunha is getting it. Mount, getting it. Even Šeško, when he came on, was absolutely getting it. The wing backs were getting it. Ahmad and Dorgu didn't have good games, but they were completely sabotaged by the way that we played, especially in the first half. Left out with very little to do, very few touches. When they made good runs, they were thrown under the bus. Ruben Amorim will live and die by the way that he selects the midfield in this, because tactically, there was very little wrong. Tactically, everything should have essentially worked in this game. Tactically, United should have created a lot more chances. That's what the system is supposed to do. It went off essentially as predicted, but there were so many bad decisions in this game that led to that kind of the performance that we saw, the inability to sustain attacks and the mistakes. And you have to, at that point, put it on the personnel. The manager's job is to pick the right personnel and to change them. He got that so wrong, it was almost unbelievable. The subs were all late. The subs were all reactive. It was the wrong players. Bruno should never have survived the 90 minutes. And we shouldn't be picking this midfield in general. It's too many instances of them being slow to react and putting United behind the ball. But there was no other glaring issues. And this is why I think a lot of times just too much gets made of the situation. Right now, we cannot keep going on playing unphysical personnel. And with Bruno, he's a good player, of course. He can be a great player, but he can't be undroppable, and he's not infallible, and he cannot put in performances like that because he single-handedly did waste 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 attacks while missing a penalty, and United should have scored in other instances. So to me, that's the big test and what I'm going to be looking for out of Ruben Amorim in the next game. Does he notice exactly what they're doing wrong, what they messed up in that game, get them to fix it, and can he fix the personnel? Because some of it are not going to change until the personnel change. It's too slow. It's too slow. He has to get Benjamin Šeško on the pitch so that Cunha can drop in. I would play Cunha and Mount and get Mbeumo as a bit of an impact sub until he fits in a bit more, because Cunha and Mount are doing beautiful work in those gaps, in those 10 positions. But then just give them midfielders who are just going to pass the ball into them, make it easy, find those empty spaces. Kobbie Mainoo, Manu Ugarte should start the next game, as should Benjamin Šeško. And against Grimsby, it's easy, but they should use that to build momentum and go into the next one. And if you want to start Bruno, fine. Put him back into the 10s and put someone below him, and do not let him drop all the way back deep to pick up the ball, because he should not be touching it as much as he is. He is way, way too influential in it when you just want someone doing the basics. So Ruben Amorim has a lot to fix in this. He has a lot he has to fix. And a lot of it is simply down to personnel, and a lot of it is down to individual mistakes, and a lot of it is down to mitigating those mistakes. That's the job of the manager. The system itself is there. As far as I can see it, the system itself is working. You may not like that, but I think that's true. The chances, the patterns, the overloads, the ways to manipulate the defense, they're all there in the images. You can see it. And they didn't really get this beat tactically. They got beat individually, but his in-game management was probably a 1 out of 10 in that game. And that's the biggest factor from his side and what he can control. Those are my thoughts on the game. You let me know what you think. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on. I'll see you in the next one.